What's up, everybody? Welcome back to After the Snap, and I'm your host, Tasha Pierce. And this is Friday, and there's a film out. So I'm guessing that means this is Film Review Friday. And what that is we talk about a new release film on Fridays on my channel. And today's film has been the long awaited, long delayed sequel to the movie Venom. Now, the original Venom movie came out in 2018. It was starring Tom Hardy as both Venom and as Eddie Brock as he played Venom, the symbiote, and Eddie Brock, the reporter who the Venom symbiote attached to. So we had a lot of fun with the first movie. Oh, before I keep go any further, thank you, Davina, for letting me know that this thing wasn't going over. I appreciate you. So anyhow, um, this movie, Venom, Let There Be Carnage, is the sequel to the original 2018 movie Venom. Now, for those who are kind of casual fans of these movie franchises, especially the Marvel franchises, there's a little bit of a difference of between companies with these movies. So Sony has the rights to Venom, it has the rights to Spider-Man. But lately here, they've been sharing the rights of Spider-Man with the Disney Marvel franchise of movies. Then there was also the Fox Marvel movies, and that's where you had X-Men and all this. So originally, these movies were not related in any way, shape, or form. These franchises were all separate, run by separate companies. We know the MCU is the big one with the 25 movie catalog and that has seen all of this success. Sony has got into this success. And one of the ways they put their foot in the door of the success of these Marvel movies is with Venom in 2018. Now, like I was saying when I was talking to myself a little while ago, the original Venom movie, uh, it was an acquired taste. It made a shit ton of money. And there were so many people who, this would divided the audience. I'll put it like that. It divided the audience. You either love this movie and you loved it, loved it, loved it, or you didn't particularly like this movie. I don't think that I've heard anybody who said, I hated the original Venom movie. They either loved it or they just meh. And I fit in that latter category. I was meh about the original Venom movie. And there's reasons, but we're not here to talk about the original Venom movie. That's just the precursor to where we are right now as far as Venom Let There Be Carnage. Because you know, just like I do, that if a movie, if anything, makes a ton of money, there's going to be a sequel. It's going to be a sequel. So in 2018, the original Venom movie came out. By 2019, Sony was already at work on the sequel. They wanted that sequel to be released in 2020. And well, we all know what happened in 2020. And the movie was done. It was supposed to come out in 2020, but, you know, Pandy and them just had other ideas. So here we are now with the sequel. Finally, it's been delayed since 2020, and it's gotten delayed a couple times this year. But after the success of Disney's Marvel Shang-Chi movie, after that success, I think a lot of movies were feeling more comfortable and more confident that they could come in and make this dough, and make this dough they're doing. Venom came out today, technically, but the previews were began yesterday at 4 p.m. So all over North America, that there were theaters who had the 4 p.m. screenings of Venom, Let There Be Carnage. And from that point yesterday, Venom 2 made $11.6 million. Doesn't sound like an awful lot of money, but remembering that we are in the pandemic era, so that this movie making $11 million during its previews, that preview night, is kind of a big deal. The highest amount that has been made in the pandemic era on the opening night, the preview night, was Black Widow. Black Widow, let me see, close that. Black Widow uh, made $13.9 million on its opening night. So we have that first and foremost. That's the number one movie on a Thursday night screening. Before Venom, the next highest was, I believe it was Shang-Chi. It was either Shang-Chi or Fast 9. So one or the other was the second highest, and that was no more than $9 million. Venom just shattered that with their Thursday preview, and that was, like I said, $11.6 million, which 3 years ago wouldn't have been nothing to hoop and holler about, but right now in pandemic era, that's a big deal. People are coming back to the movies. In fact, the theater that I went to go see Venom Let There Be Carnage in was like more than half full. And that is the biggest crowd. Let me think. On the first night, so on a Thursday night screening, because that's when I generally see my movies when I have to do a Friday film review. That Thursday night screening for Black Widow, the Thursday night screening for Shang-Chi, the Thursday screening for Cop Shop, all of those movies, it was a much more intimate affair. It was smaller. This one, that thing was about three quarters of the way full, and they had movies coming out at 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So they stacked the deck with the Venom Let There Be Carnage on their marquee, and they had it in their biggest theaters, their biggest screenings. So okay, I was excited to see this movie. And I wasn't the only one, obviously, since there's a lot of people who ran out first day to see it. Now, my issue is, will there be people who will go and repeat view this movie? And that's where we get into the review. Now, when I was talking to myself before Davina saved my life, I was talking about the players in this movie. And the players are, again, Tom Hardy, who is the star as Venom and as Eddie Brock, but he also got that story by credit this time. He didn't get the screenwriter's credit, but that's a big deal when the actor has that much involvement with the story. It's kind of telling me that Tom Hardy is making sure that this thing goes in a direction that he is comfortable with acting, and with the dialogue that he is comfortable with saying, especially when it says he's talking to himself most of the time. Speaking of that, talking to himself is the forte of one Andy Serkis, who is the director of this second Venom film. Now, Andy Serkis might not be a household name to everybody, but if you're about that sci-fi fantasy life, then you know who Andy Serkis is. Andy Serkis played in The Hobbit as, oh my gosh, Golem, and I forgot the other one's name. And then he also played Black Panther. He was Ulysses Claw, and he was the director of that Jungle Book movie Mowgli. So he knows his way around a production set when there is a character who is interacting in the motion capture type ways, or excuse me, oh excuse me, or when they're interacting with themselves. So Andy Serkis was a great grab for the director of this movie. We also had cinematography was Robert Richardson, and then the budget was $110 million. So it's a pretty penny. Not as expensive as it could have been, but it's a pretty penny. Okay, now let's get into the movie itself. What did I think of Venom Let There Be Carnage? One thing's for sure, and two things are for certain. Thing number one is, being honest, I wasn't the biggest fan of the first movie. First movie was okay. It was, I wasn't writing home. I wasn't running out to see it a second time. I didn't even purchase it. I got a little enjoyment out of it at the theater, but it wasn't enough to make me like a huge over the top fan of the first movie. Now the second movie, the first movie again was financially successful. So if it ain't broke, Sony was not going to fix it. And that's where we lean more into exactly what made the first movie so good for so many people. They actually they leaned into the humor. So in this second movie, we got an awful lot of humor, not slapstick kind of stuff, but it was campy humor. This is a movie that did not take itself too seriously. The central theme of the movie is relationships. And the central relationship in the movie is of course, Eddie Brock and Venom trying to learn to live together. You see all around the apartment that they were living in, and this is not a spoiler because it was in the trailers. All around the apartment that they're living in, there are rules that Venom basically has to follow. I don't see too many rules that Eddie has to follow, but Venom has a set of rules. This is creating animosity in the house between Eddie and Venom, who are inhabiting the same body. So, again, central theme, relationships. So there's that relationship. There's also the relationship between Cletus Cassidy and Francis, who was also Shriek from the comic books. But I forgot her, Frances Bannister, I think her last name was. He and she had a relationship from childhood, and they are separated at some point during their young adulthood. They get separated, but that love never died. They still was in love with each other, even though they were both locked up. Couldn't see each other, couldn't get to one another. So we have that relationship as well. There's another relationship that is central to this, and that is the Cletus Cassidy character and Carnage. Can they inhabit the same body? Can they live like Eddie and Venom have been doing? So we've got those three major relationships, not to mention the former fiance of Eddie Brock, the relationship between her and Eddie and Venom. So that's the theme. We see that they're going to explore what makes relationships work, what types of compromise may have to be made in order to make this relationship work, or do we just walk away, basically. Okay, this movie, like I said, didn't take itself super serious. It didn't have a lot of nothing to chew on. It was definitely a movie, again, for people who enjoyed the first one. We're going to laugh. You're going to get some laughs. You're going to get a great symbiote fight towards the end of the movie. And you're going to learn a little bit more about Eddie and Venom and their relationship. Now, there was so much about this movie that I was hoping, because I was looking forward to the movie initially, but there's so much about the movie that just didn't hit for me. Not saying that it's a complete miss and I feel like I wasted my time, but I am saying that it's just like the first one, where I don't have any desire to see it again. I don't have to go back to the movies for this, and there, that's saying quite a bit from me. I don't have to go back to the movies to see this movie. Um, I probably won't purchase it from my home library. These are things that these are the ways that I know that I truly appreciated a movie is how eager am I to go right back to the theater and see if there's something that I missed. Pretty much, you're not gonna miss a lot. If you blink for too long, or take a nap, the movie's over because it was only a 90-minute movie, or a little over 90 minutes. So it might even been a little under 90 minutes. Let me see what that runtime was to be sure. But yeah, there was just so much about this movie that I feel like could have been capitalized, especially the success that we've had in the previous movie. I thought that there was room for them to do something a little bit different because there's money involved. Lots of it. Lots and lots of it. Let's see. I'm trying to find that runtime to be sure before I tell you something that ain't true. I can't find it. I cannot. Here it is. 1 hour, 26 minutes of movie. And I'm not complaining about that because if that's how much movie you needed to get this story out, then so be it. And the story itself wasn't bad. The story itself, for what it was, it knew that it was leaning into that humor and that funny ish. But I think it could have, with the amount of time between last year when shutdowns began and this movie was not able to come out as Sony planned to now. There's enough time to maybe if you thought that you needed something to beef this movie up a little bit, you had time, plenty of time, and being in a hurry didn't suit them well. Because, I mean, of course, if they knew we was going to have to sit still for a whole damn year, then maybe they would have done things a little bit differently last year. But as it stands, the movie sat idle for an entire year, and that was time that certain things, especially continuity things within the movie, could have been fixed. It wasn't bad. It wasn't like a horrible. It wasn't the worst thing that I've seen this year. Shout out to Karen. But it wasn't as strong as I had hoped it would be. Uh, Let me see. It was something else I wanted to say about this movie before. Now, there is a part of this movie that a big chunk of me is super excited about. And again, I'm not going to drop that spoiler until maybe after I've given you these Rotten Tomato scores and kind of what the critics thought and what the audiences thought and how that matched up to the first movie. But like I said, for me, uh, it was a bittersweet pill. It wasn't the greatest movie in the world. It wasn't the worst. The critics are saying the same things. The critics on this tomato meter on Rotten Tomatoes have given this movie a 60%. And believe it or not, that's better than what the first movie achieved with the critics. Like almost two times better than what the first movie achieved. So at least we're moving in the right direction. Also, the audience score stands strong. This movie is going to make money because 85% of the audience that saw this movie last night, that's with 1,000 verified ratings, over 1,000 verified ratings. 85% of the people who saw this movie last night were satisfied and were 100% behind what Andy Serkis, Tom Hardy, and Kelly Marcel were able to put together. But just to think of what they're calling this on Rotten Tomatoes, it is a comedy fantasy, and that's what I I didn't put it together. I always say just fantasy when I'm running to a superhero movie, and you know I love these things. So I'm gonna go to a superhero movie if it's open. Point blank period. But they are calling it a comedy fantasy. So this is letting me know that these are deliberate choices. This is not a movie that thinks it's this hard edged serious movie and then it turns out to be funny. And it also wasn't over the top slapstick. It was right in the sweet spot. There was a lot of funny moments. There are a lot of things in this movie to like, and there are so many flaws. It got a little sloppy in the middle. The beginning kind of dragged just a little bit. They leaned into the humor of Eddie and Venom in the apartment together, probably a little too long. But the story about them trying to figure out life together or apart, I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that aspect of it. I also enjoyed the inner turmoil between Carnage and Venom. They wasn't as cohesive, and that is not a spoiler. But they weren't as cohesive as Eddie and as Eddie and Venom, and it was simply because Venom chose Eddie. That's who he wanted to. He tried some other people first, but in the end, at the end of the day, Eddie was his choice. Carnage kind of got stuck with who he got stuck with. Now, it was a good thing that he got stuck with who he got stuck with because they both they had the intention of basically watching the world burn. That's basically what their thoughts were, and the only thing that was going to stop uh, Cletus Cassidy from watching the world burn is him getting his girlfriend Frances first, and together they thought they were going to make the world burn. Of course, things happen. Things happen. I'm not going to ruin any other aspect of the movie. I am going to talk about that post-credit scene, but I'm going to yell to the rooftops that I'm talking about it before I do. But again, the 60% rating for the critics was on 144 reviews, so you've got a pretty good base line of critics. We know pretty much this is how things are going to end up. Uh, wasn't it wasn't a bad movie. Lots of action. Carnage looked freaking fantastic in parts because again, and I know that I harp on this because on Film Review Fridays, but I do it because I am not the only person in the world who is slightly visually impaired. Not even slightly. I am very visually very visually impaired. So when things just go so dark that all I can see is the shadow, it kind of pulls me out of what's going on the screen. I know that is again an intentional choice. It is to set a mood, to set the scenery for what is happening. Is if it's a dark thing that's about to happen, yeah, it doesn't make sense for them to shine a spotlight on it. However, for me, it takes me out because now I got to figure out what I just missed in this darkness. So you ain't never got to worry about the sound levels. It was pretty intense when the battles took place. Everything was very for a person who can. I mean, this ear is so so that was okay. Now, I'm about to get into spoilers. And I'm only going to spoil the post-credit scene. So at this point, if you're watching this live or in the rebroadcast, I'm about to drop some spoilers. I'm about to drop some spoilers because I have to talk about it. And I could do it in the video, but I don't want, I don't want to F things up for somebody who has not seen this movie. So I understand 100% if you haven't seen this movie and you don't want to be spoiled, I can understand why you would leave right now. And I appreciate you for watching. But I have to I gotta talk about it. And what the thing is that I have to talk about is the post credit scene. In this post credit scene, spoilers. In this post credit scene, we see Venom and Eddie after they have battled with Carnage and they have removed themselves from the equation. They took themselves to, I believe it was a beach in on Mexico or someplace like that. Okay, so they're there chilling. They in this little ratty hotel room, just what Eddie could afford, and they are having a heart to heart talk with one another about after as they're watching TV. So they're watching TV together, and they are having a heart to heart conversation about couples or a pair of people who are together, keeping secrets from one another. How it's a bad thing. And Venom says, you know, I agree with you, and there are things that I could tell you that, like I've got 80 million light years of hive knowledge that they have, uh, the symbionts, and that he's saying I could tell you a whole lot of things, basically, uh, that would just blow your little puny mind. If I gave you all this information, it would just it'll blow you away a little too much. So Eddie says, you keeping secrets from me? I thought we were past that. And Venom says, okay, I'm gonna give you a little glimpse of the hive knowledge that we've gathered across the universes. And by we, he means all of the other symbionts. So all of the symbionts somehow are mentally connected. And the knowledge that they gain from any universe that they're in, and it's very important that Venom said universes. That comes into play, of course. He said to Eddie, across the universes, we share knowledge. I can give you a little tiny glimpse. If I give you too much, it's going to blow your mind. Let me make sure I'm not. Um, and Eddie says, okay. And he starts to meld his mind, Venom. He starts to meld his mind with Eddie. And in that moment, we see something freaky happen in the hotel room. Excuse me, where lights start to shimmer and the room kind of starts to shake. I'm dropping spoilers. If somebody just came in and does not want to be spoiled for Venom, I'm spoiling right now. So the room starts to shake, uh, and then we notice everything, the scenery all behind Venom and Eddie change. So all of that stuff changed, and then it appears that they're in a whole different room. Like the room that they're in now is super swank. It's got those. It's like when you go on a cruise and you see the towels get made into these like little little animals. Okay, so we're in that. That's where we are. This room just completely flipped, but Eddie and Venom did not move. And then the TV was still on, and you look at the TV screen, and who the hell you see? You ready? You gotta know already, because there's no way you'll be watching this far into this video if you haven't seen it already. We see J. Jonah Jameson. Now, J. Jonah Jameson, played by J.K. Simmons, yeah, he was from the Raimi era Spider-Man movies. And that is, Raimi was Tobey Maguire when Tobey Maguire played Spider-Man. He's from that era. Now he's already shown up in Spider-Man Far From Home. So we saw him there. Excuse me. We also saw him on like I said, the Raimi movies. And now we're seeing him here. We're not supposed to see him here. So if you're a more casual superhero movie fan, that's a big freaking deal. And the reason why it's a big deal is because it ties in to what we saw happening in the trailer of the Spider-Man No Way Home movie that's coming out in December. What it means is that a multiverse has opened up. Spoilers, spoilers, I'm warning you. What it means is a multiverse has opened up. And in this multiverse, in the original universe, we just had Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, and all of them. But now we are pulling those strings of when I was telling you that these have been three separate universes for the past 10, 15 years, 20 years. Sony had their own universe, Fox had their own universe, and then the MCU was a completely separate universe. What it appears that is happening is these universes are colliding in on one another and pulling the characters from these other universes are getting pulled in to the MCU. And this just happened with Eddie and Venom. Huge, huge, huge. Because number one, it means we are going to finally see Venom interact with Spider-Man, just like we did in the cartoons, in the comic books, even in that old other Spider-Man movie with the one with Tobey Maguire. We are going to see all of these characters share a screen together. And that is unprecedented because Fox and its properties now belong to Disney and Marvel, the MCU. But that's Sony. Sony still has the rights to Venom. We just spoke about that. And it still has the rights to Spider-Man, although they are sharing that character with the MCU. So now we are going to get that mashup that we've been looking for. We are going to get Venom with this Tom Holland Spider-Man inside the greater MCU universe. And I think that's going to be so dope because Tom Hardy is the man for this job. Now, I think his skills have been utilized well when it comes to him playing a character against himself. So that's a good choice. But when you start talking about the MCU, Tom Hardy fits in. It's just like when he played Bane over in the DCEU. He fit in. And another thing about Tom Hardy is he's going to give you 100% of himself. He's given 100% of himself over to this character. And he's already believable as Venom. He looks so disheveled because he's got this inner turmoil going on because he's hearing voices nobody else hears. People might think it's something wrong with him, with the way that he behaves. He looks like he don't sleep well. He truly embodies what we think of when we see Eddie Brock. We are getting that actor, that character in the MCU. I just, it blew my mind. And it blew my mind because it means to me that maybe not every rumor that we've heard about what to expect with Spider-Man No Way Home and Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, we might not be able to believe everything that we've been told about those two movies, but we can believe a lot of it. We've already had a lot of it confirmed. We've already had the fact that Doc Ock, Electro, Lizard, possibly the Sandman, possibly the Vulture. We've already had it substantiated that those things are true. Green Goblin, We saw that, or at least hints of that, in the Spider-Man No Way Home trailer. And then we started hearing, oh, but the other two Spider-Men from the other universes, they're going to be in there too. Now, again, that has not been confirmed 100% yet. But the possibility looks that much greater because of this scene. So this scene has opened the door that anything that we've heard about this Spider-Man No Way Home movie or about this Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness movie, anything is possible. Anything that has been reported could very well be true. For instance, we've also heard that within those two movies, we will be introduced to the Fox X-Men characters. Maybe not all of them, but all it takes is us to see one of them, and then we know that these worlds are definitely colliding, and we are definitely slowly introducing characters from these other planes into our plane. Now, I did a video a few months back about the Spider-Man No Way Home trailer, and I did a video about the Spider-Man No Way Home trailer little while back, not long time ago, but it's been a couple of months, I think, and I talked about this. I talked about what it was that I thought was going to happen, and this is now making me feel like it's going to happen even more. What I think is going to happen is that the No Way Home in Spider-Man No Way Home really means he's not going to get back to the MCU. I believe that these movies is Sony's way of giving us a goodbye in the MCU to Spider-Man, but reintroducing him in the Sony Marvel universe. And all of these things that are happening, the things that we have seen with Venom, with Doc Ock, Electro, Green Goblin, all of these things that we've seen, not to mention the stuff that we've seen in the Disney Plus series, all of those things are working together, and it's almost to the point where it's confirming that the multiverse is going to fracture parts of the MCU, but it's also going to be the avenue that they use to bring other characters in. And I'm going to start with some X-Men stuff. The X-Men, we might not see entire teams, so don't think that I'm saying that like a whole team is just going to drop into Spider-Man No Way Home. No. Even if any one character shows up in Spider-Man No Way Home or Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, we are in unprecedented territory, but it also means that we are very close to seeing this relationship between Disney and Sony kind of close out. I hope I'm wrong on that part, because I would love to see when we get Morbius, and I would love to see Kraven the Hunter, all of those characters that they have over at Sony. I like to see them interact in the greater MCU, especially since the MCU's universe is established and cohesive. They have a definite vision for where this thing goes. And Sony, not saying that they can't create a vision, but they've had time, especially since Marvel has been using Spider-Man for so long. They've had time to make a way to fit their characters into a nice, neat universe. What I hope this means is that if Spider-Man ends up, the rights go back to Sony, and Sony says, we're not going to share him, Spider-Man, all the time, but maybe some of the time. Once in a blue moon, you'll get a Spider-Man. And I hope that it leaves the door open for other characters to cross over into the MCU. If Sony doesn't do that, it's almost like leaving money on the table. There's a lot of money to be made. And guess who's making the most of it? The MCU. I'm not saying that they walking on water, but they've already got a formula. All you have to do is loan them these characters every now and then and take your piece of that pie, Sony. It's already worked out for you with Spider-Man. This one being the first Spider-Man, the last movie to make $1 billion at the box office. You're looking at $1 billion this time in the middle of a freaking pandemic. If Venom, Let There Be Carnage, has made $11.6 million in their preview night, just based off the excitement of what they might have heard and the excitement for the movie. So we were already excited for the movie, but then people started talking, and the conversation has been, you cannot miss this post-credit scene. Period, point blank. You can't miss it. If you miss it, oh my God, you're lost. And that's what I mean. This movie, or these moves that Sony is making, if one of them ain't, let's continue to do crossovers for huge events. If one of them is not that, there's something wrong with Sony. There's something wrong with Sony. It's too much money to be made. And then Venom, like I said, $11 million first night, middle of the pandemic. We're looking at what, 60, 70? If unless the word of mouth is negative, which I just read you the Rotten Tomatoes scores. 85% of the audience are truly enjoying this movie. So the word of mouth is positive. So as long as it's got that positive word of mouth, and then we're hanging that carrot over their head about that post-credit scene, this movie is probably going to surpass Shang-Chi. It's going to surpass it. Not saying that it's a better movie, because I don't think it is. I don't think it's a better movie than Shang-Chi. I didn't even really particularly, I'm not going to see it again. In fact, I haven't given you my score. On the 1 to 5 scale for Venom Let There Be Carnage, I'm going to go 3.25, because it was definitely better than the first movie, but it still leaned far too heavily into being comedy. And like my bar for comedy in the superhero movies is Deadpool. And if you ain't about to, if you're not touching that bar, then let's not call a movie a comedy. Because Deadpool gets it right. Oh my God, I cannot wait to see all of them in the MCU together. I kind of hope that Tom Hardy keeps this symbiont, but if it attaches to anybody else, oh my Lord. Even though they seem to be okay together. But if that symbiont attaches to anybody else, oh my Lord. So, those were my thoughts. That was me spoiling parts of the movie. I hope that I hope that everybody who is going to see the movie still goes to see the movie. It has nothing, what I think is a good movie might not be what you think is a good movie. You might give me a reason to revisit it. If you share your thoughts in the comments on any of my videos. So I will appreciate hearing what you think about Venom Let There Be Carnage. My thoughts were simply, it was, a ha-ha movie. And I don't know, I thought I was going to get a darker look at this, at Venom, especially since he was going up against Carnage. You just think of the raw rage that resides within Carnage. I thought we were going to see a lot worse killings. Look, I'm sorry. I did want to see some killings. I thought we were going to see a lot worse killings. I thought we were going to see a darker theme. But again, choices that were not mine. They were the directors and the writers, and they went that way. And it seems to be paying off because there are a bunch of people, like I said, who are going out, running out to see Venom, Let There Be Carnage. I really hope it has a very strong weekend and that that could give the theater owners, the movie makers, and the audience confidence to go back to the movies because there's no other way that you should there's no other way that you should watch Venom Let There Be Carnage except for on the big screen, unless of course you have issues that keep you from being able to do that and do it safely. If all things are safe and all things are equal, you need to go see this movie on the big screen. Now, while I'm saying that, there are a lot of people who ask me questions like, "Is this coming on Disney Plus? Is this coming on HBO Max?" This movie is a theatrical release only. I don't know exactly how many days that is going to be a theatrical only release. Maybe 45, maybe 60, however many days it is. Sony doesn't have a streaming service. So Sony can distribute this movie wherever the hell they want to. As far as streaming, they can put it on Netflix, they can put it on Hulu, they can put it wherever they want. But they don't have their own streaming service. So with a Sony film, you don't really have to worry about a movie coming on the streaming service. And for some people, that's not a worry. They're looking for that because that's the way they would prefer to watch it. But this one, you don't have a choice. That choice is off the table. It is not available for streaming. And speaking of available for streaming, I do a show on Saturdays on my YouTube channel, and it's called The Weekly Wrap Up. And some wild shit, some wild shit has happened this week. So if you want to watch The Weekly Wrap Up tomorrow with me at 3 p.m. Central Time, you can join me over on the YouTube channel, and we can discuss the wild shit that has happened this week in entertainment news. And I also talk about Marvel's What If and Disney's, Marvel's What If and DC's Titans. So those two shows I discuss, and then I also there's some wild shit, some wild stuff has happened this week in the movies and or in entertainment. So keep your eyes open for that tomorrow. But then today, like I said, there are so many doors that just opened. I am so flippin' excited to just see what happens with Venom and Eddie moving forward. And I'm not gonna drop no spoilers now because I got a couple people here that weren't here before, and I don't want to spoil it for you. I had already made my spoiler announcement. I had already talked spoiler talk about 15 minutes ago. So if you on the rebroadcast want to watch about 10 or 15 minutes ago, so that was about 30 minutes in, I dropped spoiler talk if you're interested in deep spoilers. But like I said, the movie to me was a 3.25, and some folks will say I'm being generous, and I am not. I wasn't completely impressed, but you know I love Andy Serkis. I love Tom Hardy. I love Venom. I love you too, Venom. So let me know your thoughts in the comments, and yeah, that is it for Film Review Friday this week. Thank you for joining me, and if you're watching on the rebroadcast, go ahead and follow me right here after the snap movies and TV, so that you will be ready for next week's Film Review Friday. And I can't remember what it is. I just don't. I know I did Venom this week. I can't remember what my next week is. But if you follow me on my After the Snap channel, you'll know as soon as I do, because I'm gonna put it on. I'm gonna put it on the channel. It's a big movie month. I'm super excited. I hope you are too. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.